Hey, Dana,
Hey, Matt.
do you like mediumship as much as I do?
More.
More? Good.
More. Give
All
me
right.
more.
Do you know that we teach?
We do?
We do. Do
The
you
the
know that
whole time?
the
The
whole
whole
time?
time?
The whole time. Do you know our podcast is there as well?
Yes, at the website?
At the website, Dana. So,
www?
dot.
Not like the WWE.
That's www.mattanddana.com. That's MATANDDANA.com.
That's right. Only one T because Matt's parents were broke. They couldn't afford
Yeah.
two T's.
So go to mattanddana.com to book classes, circles, anything that you want to do with mediumship, it's probably there. And plus, if you're lucky, we'll probably be doing dual readings. You can check it out.
Yeah.
So check out the calendar, click book now. That's MATANDDANA.com.
Hard mode activated.
We are two best friends who happen to be psychic mediums.
We do readings, we teach, we mentor, and we love to laugh.
Yeah, and you know what? We love to cry too, because we're heartstring pulling mother truckers.
Warning, this is rated E for explicit, so if you don't like the word fuck, you should probably turn your ass around.
Turn it around. Don't look back, run. But if you're sticking around, it's time for another episode of I'm a Medium.
Ask me how. Matthew Tao, we're back.
You're back, Dana Willie. It's exciting.
How are you?
I'm good. You know what? This month has been a little wonky. It's been wonky. We haven't gotten an episode out to the children like consistently for a while. But you know what? You can't always have what you want.
No. But sometimes you don't get the podcast you want, you get the podcast that you need.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
and you get it when you're supposed to get it.
when you're good. Only good kids get podcasts.
That's right. Maybe you guys should be better. I don't know.
So I need to talk about something. We need to clear the air because this has been such an interesting summer. But I'm all about eras right now. And for me and my fit check, I am the athletic wear. So I've got like my Fabletics shorts. I've got my running shoes on, right, with my high socks. So it's athletic wear for me all summer long. For you, it's hot string summer.
It's hot string summer.
Every
what are you saying?
outfit that you own this summer that I've seen you in has a string. And I really
I like a tie. I like a string.
I really worry about you and your escalators. I really do.
I want to know what you're running from, both metaphorically and like therapeutically. Like, do we need to go to therapy? What are we running from?
My childhood trauma.
Or are we running towards really hot guys? I mean, these are the things, you know.
You win some, you lose some, Willie.
So.
But anyway, well, now that we got it cleared out of the air, I hope I don't string you along.
I hope Logan inserts the ba-dum-bum.
Oh, he will.
Yeah.
And he'll probably say something real smart like, I'm on my mom's side.
Yeah.
Well, don't be surprised if you wake up and your shoelaces are tied to your top. So
listen, I love a string. My cat loves it. Like,
is that how you lure affection from your cat?
Yeah, my cat doesn't like me any other way, so I walk around like I'm a huge cat toy.
That explains it all. Dana explains it all right there. Mm-hmm. Well, Dana, we should get to the topic at hand.
Yes.
I don't want to tie the children up anymore.
Listen, we've tied this podcast up too long. With talk of fit checks.
Okay, well, so we're on athletic wear summer and string summer. So that's where we're. Okay, cool.
Listen, I can't wait to see what next year's look is.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm already pre-planning.
I think I'm going goth.
Oh.
I'm really going to embrace this I talk to dead people look.
That's a drastic change for you, but I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. I'm going to paint this wall black.
Yeah. Can I like rename you? Like, what would your goth name be?
Murder. I don't know.
I think you would be like Dark Crystal Shadow angels. I don't know.
Yeah, that
lady,
was
lady mistress, apple bottom jeans.
no.
No.
Listen, I don't know. I gotta. I think I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be really big into the chains, like around the neck,
The
like the
chokers.
choker. It's gonna be the summer of chokers.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can tie your
What's your
shoes
look
up.
gonna be next summer?
I think it's gonna be like bodybuilder, the summer of the bodybuilder.
Isn't that what this is?
No. No, this is my twunk era.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you need to know what that is, Google it.
Yeah. I'm not Google. Sorry.
That's not what this podcast is about.
It's
But
not.
if you
I'm
want to know
Google.
what,
I'm Google. Ask me how.
yeah, this is Matt's twunk era.
It's my twunk era, Dana, and this is your string era, and this is where we live. Well,
This is where we live.
folks, we need to get into the topic at hand and get a little serious. We gotta go a little serious right now.
Yeah, we started off real weird if we were gonna go serious, but I like it. I like
pivot.
it because here's the thing. Here's the thing about you and me, is we like to have fun. We like to laugh. We like to be silly. But when it comes to our mediumship, we like to be serious because at the end of the day, mediumship and what we do is very sacred. And I think of it as one of the most sacred things that I have ever been privy of doing or touching in my entire life. Like, it's quite literally very serious. It's not to say that there's not other modalities in the spiritual realm that aren't serious, right? So when we're doing things with tarot cards or, a psychic reading or Reiki or whatever, that's not, can't be serious, but there's something sacred that truly happens when we do mediumship. And because of that, there is a high responsibility. And like I said, there's responsibility in whatever modality we work with when we're working with another human being. Did you hear what I just said? Whenever we're working with another human being, there's a high responsibility that happens. But when we are bringing forward information with that soul to soul, bringing that connection, there is something beautiful and sacred that there is a huge responsibility that comes with that. So yes, we can be fun and silly, but when it comes to mediumship, we don't like to mess around.
Well, I think there needs to be an understanding that it is very easy to hurt somebody doing this work. We respect the dead when we do this work. We respect the life of that person that is on the other side, but we're also not getting people that usually book with us that are like in a good place. Like, they're in the most traumatic part of their life. They are on the path of grief, which is really, 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 really fragile, and you can hurt somebody very easily, and it doesn't come with development, right? So I think that development helps enhance that, but it comes with your compassion for other people and how you treat other people, because other people are your clients, they're your business, they are you're in the profession of people, just like you would be with like doctors or nurses or therapists or retail workers or Starbucks workers, or I don't know, you name it. If it involves people, there is a level of taking care of them in a responsible, respective way. And that is what I hold sacred, because if somebody's coming to me and hurt, my job is to help aid them or guide them to a point where they can be self-sufficient or on the path of healing or finding the right way through resources. But my job is to just aid. But as a medium, and I'm only going to speak from the medium aspect because I think other modalities have other responsibilities that I want to talk about, is that my job as a medium is to just be the telephone. And I love this analogy, Dana, because like this is now my go-to. Like, this is my phone and you can kind of see Dana Willie in it. Oh my goodness. But really my job is to be a telephone, right? And so it's my responsibility to just give messages in a very responsible way from the person that's on the other side to the person here. But really, let's break it down even even more simplistic than that. It is a soul to soul connection that is love, right? So like whoever is booked with me wants to hear from their loved one. That's the reason why we call it loved one. And that is the connection that we're making. We're making this love soul to soul contact. So the phone analogy really fits in here, that the phone doesn't celebrate when it connects. The phone doesn't celebrate when it gets a good sentence out from the spirit communicator to the person receiving the call. But it also, the phone doesn't hurt us, right? So it's not reporting our conversations to the government when we're done hanging up.
I mean, we don't know, but
But I'm saying like a basic telephone.
let's just say
A basic telephone. It doesn't do anything. It just does its job, right? It just does its job to provide it. Now, as a developing medium, you're learning how to expand your signal, right? So you mean by going on Wi-Fi or 5G or whatever, but you're just learning how to sustain the connection between the spirit world and the person. When we make the telephone more important than the connection between both, we're losing sight of the actual purpose of mediumship. And with this work, because we're speaking to something really intangible that only the medium or the telephone can experience, it is very easy to take advantage of situations based on our personal experience of the why of why we do mediumship, or our own personal development journey, right? So, like, if somebody has never been heard before and never felt special, when you're giving them something like a weapon like mediumship, and I'm going to say weapon, it can be weaponized. And it really can do a lot of damage. And I think we've done a podcast on this before about psychic cleanup, but there needs to be a lot of work on making sure that we are showing up for the right reasons when we're doing this work.
well, it can easily be bastardized, right?
Yeah.
And we've often talked about why it's so important that our ego stays in check. And very quickly, whenever I mention the word ego, I always want to remind everybody that ego is not a bad thing. We all have ego, and ego is part of being human, and it's part of our human condition, and it's not a bad thing. But when we are mediums, it's always important that we keep our ego in check, because it's very easy. It's very easy when we're told how amazing we are for bringing forward these connections for our ego to get out of control. And it's very easy for ourselves to compare ourselves to other people and feel like we're in the gutter, or we're not good enough, and have these fluctuations in I'm so amazing or I'm not good enough, and go up and down. So it's really important for us as mediums to be very balanced in our ego, and, as you said, not have per se investment in the outcome like the telephone, and just be giving what we're getting, because it is so easy to get out of alignment with that. And when we're out of alignment, that's when things get wonky. That's when mediumship can get bastardized. That's when people can flow off course. And we've often talked about the why of mediumship. And we can all have our personal whys of like why we were brought to do this work. A lot of people are brought to this work because they had a tragic loss, and they wanted to further understand this, or they had an amazing mediumship reading and they're like, wow, I want to learn more about this, or they want to help people. Everybody's why they start doing this or discovering this. And then maybe they want to help. They want to help heal or whatever. But the basis of why any medium should be doing mediumship is to bring that soul to soul connection, right? We also have to know that there is healing that happens in a mediumship reading. When we are able to bring validation of a reconnection of a loved one to a loved one, knowing full well that that loved one is always around our sitter or whoever we're bringing that connection to, we're bringing validation of that, but we are bringing validation of that reconnection. And there is always healing that can happen in that, because we get that like, oh, they really are around, and that's amazing. So at the core of mediumship, the reason for mediumship is bringing that reconnection and healing. We have to remember it's not a replacement for therapy. It's not a replacement for grief work or anything like that. But there is healing. There is reconnection. There is validation that we do go on. And that should be the why for every medium.
Yeah.
We might have nuances on further why, but that is the why, and that is why it is so sacred and why it is so important that we do this work in the correct way.
Yeah, and you know what? All roads lead to Rome. There's different ways to get there. I'm gonna hold space for that. But a question that I often get is, why do mediums either cut corners or do fraudulent behavior when they can do the work? And what I noticed is it's a lot of desperation. So there could be desperation for money, there could be desperation for attention, there could be desperation to perform, right? And having an expectation. But all of it really truly lies in the confidence, and the confidence in the person that's being the medium or experiencing it, because mediumship can become very intoxicating. And mediumship has so many multi-layered aspects to it that can affect the reading, that when something goes awry, I think a lot of mediums suffer in silence, and they don't speak where they are. They don't seek development because the ego says, well, you can do this, and it's the sitter's fault. And they never place blame on themselves first, right? But it can be very easy to manipulate mediumship and create an illusion if you just show a little bit of connection, just a tiny bit of connection. Mm-hmm. And then the ego takes over, and it's not about the love connection. It's about how great the medium looks and how well they perform. Because I can say anything. Like, if I connect for you, I give you a couple pieces of evidence, and I drop my link because in my development I didn't learn how to pick it back up and then surrender and go into the flow of the reading, or understand the awareness of like the energy in the room, and understanding that I can pull that spirit energy back towards me and not get into my active mind. A lot of mediums that are underdeveloped or working on that will panic, and then they don't want to look like a fool in front of the person that they're reading for, so they will manipulate it. And we need to understand that evidential mediumship is under mental mediumship, which, if you go back into the podcast with Michael Mayo, he stated that it's only happening to the medium. It's not happening to anybody else in the room. So it leaves a lot of room for somebody that, as a sitter, can be gullible to believe it, right? And as a developing medium that's gone pretty further into my journey, I see mediums that are not connected, and I'm noticing the flow in the power. Like, I understand where the power is, and we can tell because we've sat in home circle and we've done a little bit of dabbling in trance, that the power does not lie. Like, you cannot lie to the power. And it says nothing about the medium. And I want to very clearly state that it's not about how, if the medium is connected or not. It's the medium understanding the power and the energy. And when we don't want to look like a fool in front of people, we're going to do some really shady stuff. And so it's not about if the medium is actually connected, it's about how we handle when we're not connected, of being truly transparent and saying, I'm not connected, I dropped my connection, this is all I have for you. That makes a fantastic medium, in my opinion, because you're being truthful. And in this work, because we are the only ones that are experiencing it in the room, your integrity is all you have, because you never know who's, or especially on social media, who's watching you that has done that work, and understanding where the energy in the room is. And we can feel your power, and we may not be experiencing what you are, but as we feel into your reading, and as we feel that power building, and as we see your energy rise, we experience it as well. And it's not that we're tapping unethically into your energy, but we're mediums and we feel the spirit energy. It's something that we can just tap into. That's the reason why we can do dual linking and triple linking and all that cool stuff, because we feel the movement of the spirit energy. And when it's not there, it is completely okay to admit your shortcomings to the general public.
I really, 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 really glad this conversation went here, because I was actually talking to somebody about this recently, that you can learn more about watching a medium struggle than you can about watching a medium during their most fire reading.
Oh, yeah.
Because first off, you learn about a lot about their integrity and about who they are as a person and about how trustworthy they are when they're not having a fire reading. Because the fact of the matter is we are not 100%. And any medium that tells you they are,
No.
run away, right? We are human and we're not going to always get it right. Sometimes the sitter isn't 100% getting what we're saying, and maybe we're saying it wrong, or they're having psychic amnesia or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are readings where we're struggling for a little bit. We're having some miscommunication. And if you think about it, we as humans have miscommunication with other humans sometimes. Like we have a hard time seeing eye to eye with other humans sometimes. So why wouldn't there be communication issues sometimes with like trying to like communicate with a spirit communicator and a human in front of us, right? So there's going to be things that happen in those moments. But you can learn so much about a medium in how they deal with a struggle bus reading. So how do they work through their no? How do they work through it when they're not connected anymore? Do they call it and say, you know what, today's not the day, let's reschedule, or I'm just going to leave you with their love. I'm not feeling connected anymore. I'm not going to try to make anything fit. How do they handle it? How are they handling the person across from them? Are they aware of where their sitter is at emotionally?
Yeah.
Do they need to stop because their sitter is like overwhelmed emotionally? How are they present for them? There is so much you can learn by watching somebody else and how they handle it in the flow of a reading, right? And I think that that's really important because I love watching, and it's because I am the biggest fan of mediumship.
Me too.
It's not about watching a medium and getting, because actually, so we've actually told our students this. So Matt and I do a mentorship program where we ask them to send us readings that they've done, and we tell them, please don't send us your best reading. We don't want to see your best reading, because we can learn so much more about what's going on with your reading when you're struggling.
Yeah.
And that is where it is. That's where you see the salt of who somebody really is when they're struggling.
I love struggling medium. I have turn-ons and turn-offs to mediumship. Okay. So like like you, am a huge fan of mediumship. Like it's my porn, if I'm honest. Like it doesn't do anything sexually to me, but it just turns my soul on. And the number one turn on for me is a medium knowing where their limits are. I love that. Even when a medium admits, like, I'm making a mistake, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, that lets me know that you have the real reason of why you're doing mediumship in a correct way, because your care is going towards the person that's receiving the reading, because you're willing to admit that you're not connected or you're not wrong. So you're holding the care of the person in front of you of saying, look, like, this is where I'm at and this is all I got, and that's cool. A big turnoff for me, and this is me personally, is somebody that forces it on people, somebody that can't back down from something in a certain way, right? So there's ways to deliver no's, right? So we were at a demonstration in California, and Megan Elisa handled this so beautifully that I need to talk about it on the podcast. So I'm not going to say much about the reading, but I'm just going to give this little example that Megan gave an example of distance. She just kept saying distance, 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 like I'm getting distance. But she was gracious enough to wait. And then she just was like, okay, well, let me go back and reword this, or let me go back and make sure. And then she, in her experience with the stimulus that she was getting, was confident that it was this. And she just gave the sitter time to think. She didn't say to them, well, you have to take this. This is something. You need to think broader. Because when we do stuff like that, we're including tension on the sitter, and the sitter can panic and become really uncomfortable, because then they go into confrontation mode where they're searching. And it's becoming a disconnect on the trifecta or the mechanics of mediumship between the sitter, spirit communicator, and the medium, that it adds tension. So the sitter plays a part in this just as much as we do. So if we cause panic with them, we're pulling ourselves away from spirit. But she kindly waited. And at the end, the person was like, oh, they're in Europe. And she's like, there's the distance. There we go. And not only did I notice that it moved the sitter, it moved the crowd. Those were the moments in that demonstration where people were in awe because she was like, I'm confident on this, but I'm going to let you leave it on you. And she moved on, and it came back around because Spirit brought up something that was important for the sitter to know. And that was beautiful. But I've seen readers go, you need to think outside your box. You need to think about your neighbors. You need to think about your Uncle Jim, who's second removed on the ground while he was a. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just does not help. It's not helpful. And in that moment, it's not so much about the sitter because it can be an attack. You're attacking your sitter with this information and forcing it on them. And that can cause tension and stress, but it can also make them really uncomfortable going forward in the reading with anything that you say. Right? So there's a graceful way to do it, but you learn that in development. You learn that, you know what? Sometimes you don't learn it in development. It's just the core fiber of who you are is like to care for other people and not make them uncomfortable. And I think that there's some people in development that don't have that fiber of morality and common sense, that you're speaking to somebody that's in grief and they're not going to be thinking clear-headed, that like that is just it's common sense for me. I don't know if that's being aggressive by saying that, but I think kind of like understanding that somebody is in pain across from you and keeping that as a reminder, because for us it becomes an everyday way of life and we just understand that like, hey, it's part of the job, blah, 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 blah. But we forget about it because we become desensitized because we're dealing with so many people that grief, that like we become more important than the person that's going through this hard time. But so we need to always remind ourselves the person sitting across from you is in pain. They're not thinking normal. Their train of thought is not normal. Not only that, we're going to add another layer on top of it, that you're doing something really unnormal. You're doing something paranormal. You're doing something that the person that's receiving the reading isn't experiencing. So it is scary for them. It can be scary for them. No matter what you say, you're speaking to somebody that is invisibly not there. They're intangible. You can't see, feel, and touch them as a person receiving the reading. So there needs to be a level of care for the person receiving the reading because it's scary. And I've said this on the podcast before. We need to remind ourselves that this can be scary for the general public. So we also need to hold that with care. There's a lot that goes into this, Dana.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned all that because it reiterates it's not about us. It's about the spirit world and it's about the sitter. And we are just the medium, the middleman. We are just the telephone. We're just the mailman. We're just delivering the message. And we're just trying to get out of the way the best way that we can. But you did mention development. And I think that it's really important to talk about that. The best mediums, we talked about like, what's your turn on mediumship?
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of a fun conversation to have. And one of my turn-ons for mediums is one that is continuing their development. I often will, and I think from our first episode, I introduced myself as a developing medium. Mm-hmm. And I will be a developing medium until I am on the other side. I always have said that the more I know and the more I learn, the more I realize I know nothing. And it's become just a bigger pursuit of like, the more I learn that there's so much more possible and there's so much more available. As Matt and I embark on learning more about trance, I've realized that this doing mediumship and like mental mediumship of where we're just doing these readings for people, that's the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole new world. There's a whole world beyond this that we're able to do. So it's continuing on with our development. And the people that I respect the most in the mediumship world continue on with their development. They continue on taking classes. They're continuing on showing up in multiple ways in their development every single week, every single day. And that, for me, is one of the things that I look for in somebody, because we're always, and it's not to be, and I got to work on this. If I'm honest, like, I'm very self-critical of myself, because Matt and I actually had a pretty in-depth conversation about my mediumship yesterday, and about, I'm very hard on myself, and I'm very critical of myself, because I do hold this so sacred, and I always want to be really the best that I can be when I do this work, because I do take it so seriously. But it's because it's so sacred to me. And that's kind of what started this whole conversation of filming this podcast. Was it's so important to do the best job that we can. And it's also okay to be where you are.
Yeah.
And do a good job of where you are, but it's also equally important to continue your development. And so for me, I continue my development. I'm constantly like, where can I go deeper? Where can I surrender more? Where can I step out of the way more? Where can I learn something new? Where can I read a new book? Where can I, I'm so excited to go to Arthur Findlay for the first time this year. But like, that's where it's at for me.
There's another turn on that I have, Dana, and this I have personal experience with, and I can speak to this. Is another turn on is somebody that just realizes that there is no end, and they can take feedback and criticism because they are really confident in what they are doing and their belief system and how they are, and that nothing that somebody else says can shake them, but just push them forward. Like, that is a huge turn on for me. And I think it's really rare in the mediumship community for that. So, because you're going to get faced with other people's opinions on a daily basis, as like telling people a medium. Like, you can go back, we have a lot of podcasts on this that we talk about people's reactions to it, that you're going to get called a fraud, you're going to get called a scammer, you're going to get called everything under the book. But you're also going to get feedback from other mediums, especially unsolicited sometimes, like, right? But another person's opinion shouldn't really affect you if you're that confident in what you're doing. It shouldn't matter, right? So I try to lead my work of, I know I'm developing, I'm ever changing, I'm confident, I don't know all the answers, but I've done a lot of work into this where I've had work with the mediumship education side, but I've also had a lot of work with the experience of actually doing this work. But I've also taken the time to understand the history of mediumship and where it truly lies. So that sacredness that you're talking about, that's where my sacredness comes from, because I'm not only honoring by calling myself a medium the work, I'm actually becoming a legacy of people who call themselves this. And I know anybody can call themselves this, but if you go back into the history of mediumship, it's been here since the dawn of time, but there has been a lot of people that have died and have been unalived by man for doing this work. And Joan of Arc is a really great example. There's other mediums that have died doing mediumship as well, that I would never want their legacy to be in vain, because it is so sacred and special. But the persecution of mediums has happened, and there's laws that have gone into effect around the world that we're not allowed to do this in some parts of the world, right? We're not allowed to do this, but when we're truly doing mediumship is one of the most healing things that can happen. So I think a lot of people, when they're developing in their confidence, is that if, like Michael Mayo said, if you have any insecurity around your mediumship, the word development is going to be so abrasive to you, or understanding that, like, as a developing medium that has gone on to the development and has really kind of delved into the passion of what they do, and that they hold it at a level that when we're giving feedback on being like, well, this is what I'm seeing and this is how I'm seeing it, as educating a wide variety of people, but not specifically calling somebody out, it can be a kind of an attack. But taking that feedback of being like, oh, they're seeing something, and I know that I can work on that, and just asking open-ended questions of like, how can I get over that? Or like, you know what I mean? But their insecurity is not going to let them do that.
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of finding confidence in where you are. Where are you at
Mm-hmm.
right here and right now? And not being shaken by somebody else's opinion, because it's like the three little pigs, right? It's like, where is your foundation? What is your house built out of? Right? And your
Mm-hmm.
house is the mediumship. So if your house is straw and somebody else's opinion knocks it down, you got work to do. If it
Mm-hmm.
is made out of stick and somebody's opinion blows it down, you got work to do. But if you've taken the time to develop yourself where your house is made up out of brick and concrete and somebody else's opinion can't shift it, that is beautiful. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what development provides you. That's what researching mediumship history provides you. That's what experience provides you. It lays a brick down in concrete and mortar to give you a very stable, very long lasting longevity in this field, because you are going to get a lot of critique and a lot of feedback, and especially sometimes when you don't ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I, as a mediumship educator and developing medium, but as also a podcast creator, my job is to help raise this to include more people, but also hold this as a standard of saying, I don't care how you practice, but be integral, be truthful, know your shortcomings, know that you've got work to do, journal, self development, understanding grief work, understanding trauma, understanding where people are at emotionally, and holding space, right? So there's 10 of them for me. That if you're doing all of that, you're in a great place. But if you're missing some of those, you got some work to do. You've
Mm-hmm.
got some work to do, and that's cool. And I think kind of swallowing our pride a little bit as mediums, because it becomes such an intoxicating ego builder, that swallowing our pride sometimes and admitting our shortcomings will help push you even further. And so I really want to encourage developing mediums to never be offended by somebody that has put in the work, or at least knows maybe a step ahead of you, of being like, look, I see it, it's cool, but you need to work on that, because the respect level of where we are dealing with vulnerable people is the priority out of the entire thing. Mediumship is not about how cool we look. It's really not. We
Mm-hmm.
get to do cool stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
you're just a person, and you're no better than the person that you're reading across them. You're just not in the moment of grief.
That was dope.
So I know that personally for me, Dana, and you've kind of experienced that, is that I rub people the wrong way, and my delivery of that. But just like you hold it sacred, this is the most sacred thing that you can do for somebody. But because the tangibility isn't there, it is the most abused modality that there is.
Yeah.
And people can get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I need to remind people that that psychic cleanup episode, I said we've had people come to us and tell us that they were going to unalive themselves to go be with their loved one, to get them unstuck and unfixed,
Yeah.
or that a medium said this and a medium said that, and really it just says a lot of where they are in their development.
Yeah. You know, when I think about like what we can do and what I try to do, I can only speak from myself,
Yeah.
but what I constantly try to do is have grounded awareness. And I
Hmm.
say grounded because obviously like sometimes we can get in our mental mind and we can get into the ego of like our whether that's up in the sky of like I'm the best or I'm the worst, but being just grounded in awareness of like these are my strengths because you kind of spoke about that,
Yeah.
right? But also have grounded awareness of like these are my opportunities. Sometimes we talk about building a wish list for spirit. of like, these are some on those opportunities, those things that we would love to work on. Like for me, one of the things that I'm loving to work on right now with Spirit in my development is my clairvoyance.
Yeah.
So that's on my wish list for Spirit right now, is to strengthen my clairvoyance. Though that I have an awareness that I'm not the strongest clairvoyant reader.
Mm-hmm.
So I am actively developing and working on that part of my mediumship, right? So having awareness of like, I'm really strong. I'm a extremely strong clairsentient reader, but I'm not as strong here. So knowing where our strengths are, knowing where our weaknesses are, and developing where we need to, and having a grounded awareness of like, and knowing that those opportunities are going to change. And that's why we're always developing, because that's going to shift and change. Because as soon as my clairvoyance gets stronger, there's going to be a new opportunity that I'm going to have and a new focus. And that's beautiful. So having a constant awareness and knowing that it is perfectly okay, because I need to say this to all of you, and I also need to say it to myself. You are perfectly okay where you are, but having a grounded awareness of where you are at and knowing that there's no need to rush into anything, but just being grounded and being okay exactly where you are. I think so many people rush to start reading for the public, for the general public, because they're able to get a couple of different things, and they don't understand aftercare. They don't understand trauma informed terms. They don't understand what can happen. And then they're like, oh, this is really cool that I can do this. And they start reading for the general public. And then they're unable to link consistently. And then they're doing more harm than good. Wait, be aware. Even now, where I'm at as a professional reader, as an educator, I'm fully aware of when I need to like back up and take care of myself, and when I'm ready to like be reading for the general public. I think that that's very important, that we never are putting pressure on this, and when we do it, only when we are in alignment to do so.
Yeah, if you get that ucky feeling where you're like, "Ooh, I made this about me," it's understand you made it about you, and admitting that and working on it, and then setting boundaries about what is the mediumship reading truly about, and then setting boundaries and holding yourself accountable to it. So like the ways that I hold myself accountable is I try never to make it about me. So a lot of, and this is my personal choice. You guys can do what you want, but I don't like it when people, as after I finish a reading, especially on social media, where people are like, "How amazing you are! How amazing!" Because it really takes it away from the person I just read from and their love connection. So I always try to say like, "Hey, isn't that amazing how great the spirit world is?" How great that they showed up for this person today. Like I really try to, and I also steer away from validation. And I've been given feedback that that's very cold, right? But for me, the sitter already knows the answer, right? So the person that I'm reading for knows the entire story, and I'm just pulling pages out and just handing it to them as loving reminders that their loved ones here. And so I think when we give validations in public, it ends up taking away from like how great I can be, but not just knowing that like, hey, I made a connection for you, here's your loved one. And it leaves a privacy in public where it just becomes about the love that that person is and that they got that like little love connection from the other side, and they can walk away knowing that like their personal relationship with the spirit world is private and that they got to have that moment, and it's really none of anybody else's business on a public platform, right? So I always end my readings very quickly when I'm like, I don't need to know your story, I'm sorry. And it's not me being cold, but it's me and my development saying this is the most important thing out of it, the sitter and the respect and the privacy for the sitter. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I'm a forever student. That might change. That might change as more as I learn platform, right? That the audience might need that validation. But I'm not doing platform mediumship live, so it's not about a showmanship and it's not about me, but I'm a forever student. And when I called myself a medium, I understood that this is a lifelong commitment to learning. and that things can always change and fluctuate based on my experience or what's needed, and that I am never perfect. I am never done. I am never understood. But what I can tell you is in my truth, and I'm gonna beat my own horn for a second because I always try to shy away from attention on that. Is I respect the work that I do, and that's a strength. But not only that, I'm a dope medium, and I'm comfortable giving what I got because I just don't care about how awesome I look. I don't go into an expectation of a reading expecting to look amazing or awesome. And I just don't care. It's really not my business. It's none of my concern. And I don't care if I get things wrong. Like that is one of my strengths. I'm like, look, I tell all my clients, I'm like, look, I'm most inaccurate medium you're ever gonna meet. So, congratulations, I'm gonna give you everything, and if it's a little bit of me, it's cool. I'm willing to take credit for when I step into the reading, or I'll know when I've stepped in that I need to reconnect. Right. So, like, I'm going to give you everything as I'm doing it, and so when you release that, there's beauty in that. There's beauty in that, and you learn that with development. And so when our insecurities take over of being like, wow, I'm not good enough and I'm not this, we got development to do. We got some work to do. And it's 90% of mediumship is not the mechanics of mediumship. Mm-mm-mm. It's not. It is personal growth.
Well, we're souls.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of we're souls
Mm-hmm.
in a human body in these meat suits,
Meat puppet.
growing and learning, and that's part of why I think some of us are drawn to mediumship, because it's part of our healing and part of our process. But there is a sacredness and responsibility that comes with this work. And
Yeah.
I hope this made sense to everybody of kind of where we hold this, and maybe some things for you to consider.
Or even even an understanding of where our passion comes from. Like our perspective and passion around this and why we care so much about it. This is our baby.
It is. I eat, sleep, and drink this. It's something that I hold at such a high esteem, and it's. I'm gonna share this for a second, because you and I have had some pretty in-depth conversations about this. I'm willing to say, like, I'm an amazing psychic. I think I'm a really good teacher. I think I'm a really good mentor. I think that I'm really good at a lot of things, but I'm so unwilling to say those things about my mediumship. And I think it's because I hold it so sacred. And I'm so like, I want more. I want to be able to do more. I hold it at such a sacred level that I always want to do it right. I always want to, and I'm never going to get it 100%, right?
Yeah.
But it's because I hold it at such a high esteem, at such a sacred level, that it's really important to me. So I'm like, it means a lot.
Can I make you say something?
No.
Okay, this is really good because it's going to give you grace, though. You're an amazing practitioner. It doesn't matter.
I know I am an amazing practitioner.
And so that does hold space with your mediumship as well, because regardless of where you were in your journey, of not being the greatest medium ever, you take such beautiful care of the person that you are reading for. That it doesn't matter what modality you use, but in your mediumship, they walk away feeling like they got something that left them in a better place than you found them. And it doesn't matter of how amazing the evidence that you bring forward, you honor the work and you keep it sacred by holding the respect and love of the person that you got. So for me, and you don't have to believe this, you, Dana Willie, are an amazing medium.
Well, thank you. I'm going to try to accept that, but thank you.
You're welcome.
But this is why this means so much to me. And this is why partially why I'm constantly developing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that there's so much more possible. And it's not that I compare myself to anybody, because I always know what anybody else is doing, I'm capable of as well. But I always want to honor and respect this work. I want to do it on behalf of the loved one that I'm speaking on behalf of, and I want to do it in honor of the person that I'm reading for. And it's the mantra that's on my website. I want to leave you in a better place than I got you, always. And if I don't do that, then that breaks my heart,
Yeah.
because that's not in alignment with who I am as a person.
And to the developing mediums out there, what I want you to do is I'm going to give you a little homework, just like we would in a development circle. I want you to list your opportunities of where you're at right now with your mediumship. And then I want you to create a wish list of where you want to be. But I also want you to hold space that this is going to take work. Nothing in mediumship is ever handed to us. You might get a sweetie at the beginning of your mediumship of what's possible, but that's them saying this can be yours if you work at it. And in my belief and in my truth, we have every single clair. You may be good at one, you may be good at another, but as you work and as you start to do that unfoldment and as you start to do that personal growth, the more you step out of the way and the more that is gifted to you from other clairs. And it will take a lot of work. But what I don't want you to do is to compare yourself to another person's journey, because it took them work to get where they were. And it discredits all the beautiful readings you've ever given to anybody before that. And it is not about you. What you can do to make it about you is show up, work on yourself, work on the part of you that you don't like, work on the part of you that triggers, embrace yourself, love yourself a little bit more, and sit in the motherfucking power.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you the best mediums I've ever seen hold a commitment to showing up for spirit, just not for reading. And the students that we've mentored that have done that work have grown the most.
Oh yeah, we can always tell. We always say we can tell which one of you are sitting in the power and which one.
So when I'm saying to you, when I see a medium on TikTok not connecting, I'm always like, how often do you sit in the power? How often your endurance goes up by that? So show up, and not and I know a lot of people look at sitting in the power as like this annoying thing you have to do, but change that aspect about being like, this is my time to connect with spirit and create a relationship with them, for them to work on me, and take it as a selfish. So it's part of the work. You've got to sit in the power. And that,
And it's a mode of self-care. It really is. I always feel better. Like I always feel like more grounded, and I always feel like more loved afterwards, because that's one thing we haven't talked about in this podcast, Mr. Tao, is the why this is also so sacred. I have never felt love like I feel when when I'm fully in a power build during a mediumship reading. I have never felt love like that in my entire life. And I've been married and I've had given birth to 2 children that I love dearly. I have never felt love in my life like you feel from the spirit world during, we call it the love bomb. But I have never felt love in my entire life like you feel from the spirit world.
and if you don't do the work, you're robbing yourself of something amazing like that. Because that is when you truly step out of the way. That is when you know that you've built that connection and established that connection enough to know that when everything falls out of your mouth, it is not you saying it, it is spirit, and that's like 100% accurate, and that's where messages come from. Like that little window where it's like your body's like, fuck yeah. because you get a very physical reaction when you're at the peak of your power, that love feeling, that like, I know this, you light up like a Christmas tree, that you know that whatever's going to come out of your mouth is from them. And that's where they sneak messages in. And that's where it's the most moving for the person that's receiving their reading. And it takes work to get there. So if you have no idea where I'm talking about and you've been doing mediumship for years and you've never experienced that, get into some development. There's work that you need to do because you're only hitting the tip of the iceberg.
Run. Go sit in the power. Go do some development. I'm telling you, it will change your life. It'll change your mediumship.
Yeah, and get into other modalities like experience. Remember, trance mediumship enhances mediumship. So you can work on both at the same time, but you can't. And this is I don't know, this might be controversial, but I'm going to say it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You can't be a phenomenal trance medium and have lackluster evidential mediumship. Because at that point, what you're telling me is that you can fully blend and fully commit to the spirit world enough to have them go inside your aura, enough of blending and surrendering to go inside your aura and have lackluster mediumship, right? Evidential mediumship, because that's a level of trust. So like, that is where you want to build that surrender and trust, but with both. With both. So you should be fire on both ends, or at least working towards being fire on both ends. So you can do both. So don't count one out over the other. You have such a huge iceberg that you're not seeing at the surface level. And when you really start, Dana, understanding that the work on both ends, you get a respect level for this, that sacredness will unlock for you. The more you realize that the spirit world is fucking amazing and they can do some really cool shit. And this is the tip of the iceberg. And then it becomes less about you and more about what they can do. Because the mediums of the past have only showed us the potential of where it can go, and you could possibly push it even further on the cool things that you can do by understanding that there's a sacredness to this work, and it's really about the power and the love of the spirit world and the love connection between the person in the living world and the person on the other side. And it's not about us. It's us stepping out of the way to allow the spirit world to do its job.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I think we have shown our love, hopefully, for mediumship, and hopefully you guys understand our passion and our love for mediumship and why we find it so sacred. And remember, you guys are doing amazing right where you're at, but notice your opportunities and do your homework. I think that homework assignment was beautiful, and we love you guys.
Yeah, we do.
We love you.
We love you, and sometimes love can hurt. So I love you all. You're in our hearts. Dana, take it away.
You are the light of 100,000. 40th episode, Matthew Tao.
We're 40, girl. I love it.
You're...
I tried to stall until February so we could film our 40 on a my 40, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah. Make sure you, actually, you're the 100,000, you're the light of 100,000 tied outfits.
I was waiting for that, girl.
All right. We love you guys.
All right. Bye.